Aarav had never doubted love before. For him, love was simple, built on trust, devotion, and the quiet assurance that the person beside you would never let go. And with Meera, it had felt exactly like that. They had met in college, an ordinary introduction that quickly spiraled into something extraordinary. Meera was different. She had a way of making even the most mundane moments feel cinematic, her laughter bright and unrestrained, her eyes carrying a depth that always made Aarav want to know more. From the very beginning, she made him feel like he was the center of her universe, and he had been more than willing to believe it. Their love story unfolded like the pages of a well-written novel. Late-night phone calls stretched into dawn, where they whispered dreams neither had ever shared with anyone else. Handwritten notes tucked into textbooks, spontaneous coffee dates, and quiet moments beneath the city's flickering streetlights. Every memory built upon the last, weaving a connection that felt unbreakable. But unbreakable things had a way of cracking when pressure was applied. The shift was subtle at first. Meera's parents had to leave for an extended trip, and rather than feeling the excitement of newfound freedom, she seemed distracted. When Aarav suggested they spend more time together, she smiled, but something in her expression didn't match the warmth he had come to expect. First, he ignored it. People had their off days. Besides, wasn't their love strong enough to weather any passing storm? Then came the missed calls, the unanswered texts, the plans postponed at the last minute. Aarav told himself it was nothing, that Meera was just busy, that love wasn't about suffocating someone, but about giving them space. Yet doubt began to creep in, whispering things he didn't want to believe. One evening, as they sat across from each other in a quiet cafe, Aarav noticed something that sent a shiver through him. Meera's phone, lying face down on the table, vibrated once. Her body tensed. She reached for it instinctively but hesitated before flipping it over. A single name flashed across the screen. Unknown. Aarav didn't say anything. Meera quickly silenced the phone and forced a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. That night, as he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, an uneasy feeling settled deep in his chest. Something had changed. He just wasn't sure what. Yet, doubt had a way of creeping into the mind like an unwelcome guest, settling in the quiet spaces where trust once lived. Aarav tried to ignore it at first, convincing himself that Meera was simply preoccupied, that her sudden distance was nothing more than a phase. But the signs were impossible to ignore. She became elusive. The warmth in her voice, once a melody of affection, now carried an edge of restraint. Their late-night calls, once endless, were now cut short with hurried excuses. When they met, her attention drifted elsewhere. Eyes flickering toward her phone, fingers tapping anxiously against the table. Aarav's patience stretched thin, but love made him hold on. Until the night it snapped. It was Samir, his best friend, who delivered the first undeniable blow. "I saw Meera today," he said carefully, gauging Aarav's reaction. "She wasn't alone." Aarav's stomach nodded. "Who was she with?" Samir hesitated. "Some guy. I don't know him, but it didn't look like just friends." The words hit like a cold slap. Aarav wanted to dismiss them, to label Samir as mistaken, but deep down, he knew the truth had been staring him in the face for weeks. He just hadn't wanted to see it. That evening, he decided to test Meera's honesty. He called her, his voice steady despite the storm brewing inside him. "Hey, what are you up to?" She hesitated, just for a second. "I'm at home, studying." Aarav's fingers clenched around his phone. A lie. He already knew where she was. He hung up before she could say anything more. The betrayal was no longer just a whisper of suspicion. It was real, tangible, and standing in front of him like an unmovable wall. The next night, he followed the only trail that mattered. His heart pounded as he walked through the dimly lit streets, past the cafe where he and Meera used to spend hours talking about their future. His steps felt heavier with every block, but he kept moving forward until he reached a familiar apartment complex. Meera's. Standing beneath the glow of a street lamp, he saw her, and she wasn't alone. The stranger was tall, confident, and far too close. Meera laughed, soft, unguarded, the way she used to with Aarav. His blood turned to ice. For a moment he couldn't breathe. Everything around him faded into silence, the world narrowing to the sight of her, standing with someone else in a space he had once believed was his alone. Then, as if sensing his presence, Meera turned. Their eyes met across the distance, and in that moment, everything shattered. Aarav had always imagined heartbreak as a sudden, brutal thing, like a glass shattering against the floor, the damage immediate and irreversible. But standing there, staring at Meera in the arms of another man, he realized it was something far crueler. It was slow, insidious, a series of small fractures, each lie widening the gap until the entire foundation crumbled beneath him. Meera froze. For a moment, neither of them moved. The air between them thickened with something unspoken. Guilt, maybe, or the last remnants of a love now twisted beyond recognition. Aarav forced his legs to move, his footsteps heavier than he remembered them being. As he approached, the other guy, tall, well-dressed, and completely at ease, glanced at Meera as if silently asking whether he should leave. She didn't stop him when he walked away. Aarav exhaled sharply. "So, this is what you've been hiding." Meera crossed her arms, her gaze flickering between defiance and shame. "It's not what you think." A bitter laugh escaped his lips. "That's the best you've got? I saw you. I heard the lies. Just tell me the truth." She hesitated, then looked away. "I didn't want to hurt you." "That's a convenient excuse," he said, his voice low, controlled. "How long?" She swallowed. "A few months." The words landed like a blow to the chest. Every memory they had built together now felt like a cruel joke, rewritten with the knowledge that, all along, she had been giving pieces of herself to someone else. "Why?" The question barely escaped his throat. Meera sighed, rubbing her temples as if exhausted by the conversation. "I don't know, Aarav. Maybe I got tired of feeling like we were stuck. Maybe I wanted something different. Maybe I just—" She stopped herself, shaking her head. "I never meant for you to find out like this." Aarav let out a breathless laugh, one devoid of humor. "Oh, so I was supposed to stay in the dark while you figured out what you wanted?" She said nothing, and in that silence, Aarav understood everything. She hadn't just betrayed him. She had never truly valued him in the first place. A part of him wanted to fight, to demand an apology that would never be enough, to beg for an explanation that wouldn't change anything. But another part, the one drowning in disbelief, knew there was nothing left to salvage. He took a step back, then another. With each movement, the pain inside him sharpened, cutting deep, but he refused to let her see him break. "Goodbye, Meera," he said quietly, finality in his voice. She didn't stop him as he turned and walked away, and that, more than anything, told him all he needed to know. Heartbreak didn't kill Aarav. It reshaped him. In the weeks that followed, he learned that pain wasn't a single, overwhelming wave. It was an ocean, stretching endlessly, shifting between moments of calm and violent storms. Some nights, the memories of Meera felt distant, like echoes in an empty room. Other nights, they crashed into him, sharp and unforgiving. But through it all, one truth remained. He had survived. He stopped waiting for her texts, stopped checking his phone for apologies that would never come. Instead, he poured himself into the one thing he had control over, himself. The gym became his refuge, the rhythmic pounding of weights replacing the aching void in his chest. He picked up old hobbies, reconnected with friends, and rediscovered the version of himself that existed before Meera. Samir, ever the loyal friend, never once said, "I told you so." Instead, he pushed Aarav forward, reminding him that betrayal wasn't the end of his story. "She didn't define you, bro," he'd say. "You were whole before her, and you're even stronger now." And for the first time in months, Aarav believed it. One evening, as he sat in his favorite cafe, the same one where he had once questioned Meera's loyalty, he noticed someone watching him from across the room. She wasn't breathtaking in an obvious way, but there was something striking about her presence. Confident, warm, real. Their eyes met and she smiled. It wasn't flirtatious or demanding, just a simple, genuine acknowledgement. And that was enough. Aarav didn't know what the future held, and for once, he didn't feel the need to. He had learned the hard way that love wasn't about grand promises or whispered reassurances. It was about consistency, honesty, and the quiet strength of choosing someone every single day. As he left the cafe, he felt something shift within him. Not an ending, but a beginning. Meera had been a lesson, not a loss. And for the first time in a long time, Aarav walked away without looking back.